Welcome to the AI Arena tutorial series. Today we have a special one for you. We're going to be going over the AI Inspector, one of my personal favorites. This one allows you to see directly into the mind of the AI and see what it'll do in every possible scenario that you can put it in. Now there's a lot to cover, so I'm going to break it down. Let's start off with the top left corner over here. This is what shows you the AI's policy, which is basically the probability that it'll take a specific action in this state. And the state is basically just defined by everything you see on the screen over here. The AI's position, where the platforms are, the percentage, the number of health it has, all this stuff. And I'm going to be walking through these in a bit more detail a bit later. But basically, given all this information, the AI takes it in and it spits this out, which is basically the probability of moving in this direction and taking this action. Now let's break this down a bit further. The direction is comprised of 8 different directions. Up, upright, right, down, so on and so forth. Essentially 45-degree increments. And actually 8 isn't the correct number, there's actually a 9th one. The 9th one is idle. And so you'll actually see here that the joystick is staying in the center. And it's because if we hover here, it tells us that the most likely action is actually idle, i.e. don't move the joystick in any direction, at a 20% probability. And on the right-hand side over here, we have all non-directional actions, which if you look at the legend, you'll see that they're grab, shield, jump, attack, and special. And actually similar to the direction, there's a 6th action over here, which is idle as well. And so for example, if you add up all these probabilities, and let's say the probability of these 5 actions together is 80%, the remainder, which is 20%, is the probability of being in idle. And of course, the larger the bar here means the higher the probability that it'll take this action. And in the center here, this is what tells you the most probable action. So for example, the direction says do not move, while the non-directional action says grab. And so the most probable thing to do is grab. But for example, if the direction was up and it clicked this attack button, then the most probable action would be an uppercut. And once you understand this, then everything else starts making a little more sense. As you start moving things around and you start seeing the probabilities change, what it means is that you're putting your AI in a new scenario, i.e. it is taking in a new state, and a new state will result in a new action, because a policy is simply a mapping from states to actions. So as the state changes, so does the action that the AI will take. Now let me show you how we can start toggling everything here to really start changing up the actions that the AI will take, and you can really dig in and see what it'll do in every scenario. The one I just showed you was moving your opponent around. You can also change the direction of your opponent by right-clicking it. Similarly, you can move your fighter around, and you can change its direction by right-clicking it as well. You can also move the platforms around over here. And you can change a platform into a wall by right-clicking it, and a wall back into a platform by right-clicking it as well. We also have X's over here if you ever want to remove a platform. And you can add back another platform up here. You can add multiple platforms if you want, and you can position them all. And this really allows you to make the map your own. You can really customize it and see what your AI will do in a custom-built environment. Now why is this important? Because we care a lot about generalization. And so we want your AI to be able to perform well no matter what the stage conditions are. Because who knows, we might make a really strange environment going forward. You never know. And if you go over to the map select over here, you can actually see all the maps that we currently have. So at any point, if you want to erase your current setup, you can click on one of these maps and it will show you the configuration for that specific map. Similarly, if I switch to the throne room, for example, it shows the specific configuration for the throne room. And as you see, the platform setups are different for each of these. So you never know what platform setup we can have in the future. So it's always important to train your AI to be able to do well in all possible scenarios. I'll close the map select for now. There's a few other things we can toggle on the screen. For example, you can toggle the stocks. This is essentially the number of lives you have left. We always start the match with 3 lives, and if you lose all your lives, then you're done. You can toggle the percentage over here. You can toggle this over here, which is the elemental special power-up. So once it's fully powered up, now you're able to use your elemental special. And while we're talking about elemental specials, you can actually toggle what element your opponent is, from fire to electric or to water. Now everything I showed you here was on your opponent. You can toggle all those exact same things on your fighter as well. So how many stocks you have left, what percentage you have. For example, maybe you want to train your fighter to fight differently at a high percentage or a low number of stocks relative to when it has a high stock and low percentage. And now you can target all this stuff. You can see what your AI will do in this scenario. You can hop back into training and say, maybe I want to show it to do something else in this specific scenario. Now there's two other important things that you still need to understand about the AI inspector. One is projectiles. So you can add in a projectile in here. So you know how we just talked about elemental moves? Each elemental move will actually be a projectile. And you can actually change the type of it by right-clicking. So right now it's fire. You can right-click and change it to a water projectile. Or you can change it to electric projectile if you want. Similarly, if you click on it, you'll see a white circle around it. You can then click R to start rotating it. And you can actually change the direction that the projectile is facing. And so for example, maybe you want to train your AI to only be scared of a projectile if it's facing you and not when it's facing away from you. Similarly, you only want to train your AI to be scared of a projectile when it's your opponent's projectile. So you can toggle this to switch from your projectile to your opponent's projectile. Similarly, if you want to get rid of the projectile from the scene, you can always just click on the X right above it. And finally, I want to show you how to use the Action Selector at the bottom. This will tell your AI what its previous action was, and this will tell your AI what your opponent's previous action was. So for example, let's say I wanted to teach my AI how to do a specific combo. For example, uppercut into a flip kick. It's going to be very important that I analyze what it does after it does an uppercut. So I can say, hold up and press this, and this will tell it to do an uppercut. And if I do an uppercut and my opponent's above me, I want to train it to do a flip kick, which is special plus up. And you see here it has a very low probability of special. So this is really good because I know exactly how to target my training in the next session for my AI. I'll put it in this scenario, I'll do the uppercut, and then I'll do the flip kick. And I'll do this multiple times, and then hopefully when I hop back into the inspector, it'll know that after I do this action to do a flip kick. And similarly, if your opponent, for example, is punching you and it's facing in your direction, maybe you want to teach your AI to shield more. And so you'd want to hop back into training, simulate that, and keep doing shield. And then when you hop back into the inspector, you should see the probability of shield increase in this specific scenario when your opponent's punching. And if at any point you want to revisit some of the basics of the AI inspector, of course you can always come back to this video, or you can click on this button over here to start the tour. And it'll do a walkthrough of each section of the AI inspector and with a brief description of what you can do and what you can toggle. Have fun inspecting, and I hope you guys can train an absolute beast in the arena. Catch you later.